When Elon Musk recently announced his newest innovation, a battery to power homes with or without access to the grid, some proclaimed the energy revolution had begun. Joining us now for more on the changes this might deliver, here's Rob Harvey. He's chair of the board at Energy Storage Ontario. And Rob, as I welcome you here, why don't we just start by you telling us what Energy Storage Ontario actually is?
Very good. We're the industry voice of energy storage in the province. We represent an organization, association of technology developers, project developers, and utilities. And we've come a long way in a short time in terms of raising the profile of energy storage, getting this on the map, and indeed with some initial projects in the province as well.
Let's just help that profile a little bit, because there's still some people who will understand energy generation and energy transmission, but not necessarily storage. So what do you guys do? Energy storage
is a facility which helps the flexibility and operation of our grid. So we store electricity when it's not being used, when it's not needed, when we have a surplus, for example, with renewables, bring it back at a time when it is. We also help with the application of managing the grid. So for the grid operator, integrating the intermittency of renewable generation of wind and solar has created some challenges in the operation, and energy storage can help balance. If you like, it's like a shock absorber to balance the variations on the grid.
Okay, this has really blasted into the stratosphere because of a guy named Elon Musk and a rather significant speech he gave not too long ago. We're going to play a clip of that, then come back and chat, okay? Let's roll that, please, Sheldon.
A normal household can mount this on their garage or on the outside wall of their house, and it doesn't take up any room. I mean, it's flat against the wall. It has all of the integrated safety systems, the thermal controls, the DC to DC converter. It's designed to work very well with solar systems right out of the box. And it addresses all the needs. It gives you peace of mind. So if there's a cut in the utilities, you're always going to have power, particularly if you're in a place that's very cold. Now you don't have to worry about being out of power if there's an ice storm. You can actually go, if you want, completely off-grid. You can take your solar panels, charge the battery packs, and that's all you use.
A mounted battery in your home that could store enough energy to power all of your electricity needs in the home. Is this the real deal, do you think?
I think it is the real deal, and it's a very, very big announcement, and it's certainly going to raise the profile of energy storage well beyond the industry to the man or woman on the street. I think, with Tesla, with the brand, it's a very elegant unit, wall-mounted unit. One application that he mentioned on that clip is emergency backup power, but we also see applications for helping to integrate homes that have solar PV on their rooftops. With the intermittency of solar, cloud goes over, you get spikes on solar. This will actually help smooth the integration of solar PV for the homeowner and for the grid, for the system as well.
PV meaning photovoltaic tiles that some people have on their roofs?
That's
is that
correct.
The idea? Okay. Is this just a bigger, more sophisticated, more innovative, more fabulous version of the Duracell battery I put in my flashlight?
That's, I think in terms of a battery is a battery. In terms of the, at one level that metaphor is, but it's a lot more sophisticated than that. If you look at energy storage systems, they work at small scale at homes. They could be used in medium-term storage overnight and for longer-term storage in terms of days, but they're a lot more sophisticated than that. The operating system, if you like, or the control system for an energy storage system is helping to balance, in this case, in this example, solar, but it could be other sources of energy, balance the variations and smoothing the power. Energy, we can't store electricity. The amount of electricity that's generated at a moment in time has to be consumed at that moment in time. And what energy storage does is add flexibility for the system operator to manage those variations.
But is it a lithium-ion battery the way most of them are?
Certainly Tesla's technology with their cars and with this home energy system is lithium-ion. There are many different types, even with batteries, different chemistries, sodium sulfur, there's flow batteries, there's different technologies. Certainly, even within the battery space, there's different technologies. And if you look across energy storage, there's many different technologies. We've got flywheels that use kinetic energy, that spin at very high speed to provide short-term energy. We've got, and within the members of Energy Storage Ontario, we've got quite a cluster in Ontario of technology developers.
Hold off on that. We're going to get to all of that. He also said, you know, of course, most of us, when we flip the lights on at home, that happens because we're hooked up to the grid. And the grid feeds the electricity into our homes. He said, these batteries will be so powerful, we can all go off the grid. Really?
I would disagree with him on that. I certainly think home energy storage systems will be a boon for solar PV. They'll help the overall grid. But think of it this way. Why do all our homes, you could have every home look after its own data storage, or we got something called the cloud. Why do we have the cloud? Because the cloud is more efficient. You have network efficiencies and economies when you use a network. And if we come off the grid, if everyone was independent, you would have to have enough energy storage in your home to just provide all the needs for your home. If you look at the integrated grid, we've got different sources of generation. Some customers generate their own power. You'll have different sources of storage as well. And if I can take advantage of your storage in your house when you're not using it all, and you can do the same, and we take that over 100,000 homes and businesses and everything else, we have a much more robust system.
Okay, let me check another claim that he made. You know, he's a brilliant guy, but he's also given to some hyperbole from time to time. So let's do a little reality check on this as well. The notion that one day this new kind of technology, this innovation, will be entirely responsible for our electricity needs. In other words, 100% renewable energy. Reasonable?
It's possible. When you look at applications, one of the things he mentioned on the full clip was looking at developing countries. There's hundreds of millions of people in the world that don't have electricity today. The potential for microgrids made up of renewable energy and storage is real and a great way for addressing that need with customers that don't have it. If you look at Ontario, where we've got a very robust power grid, we've got a very robust gas grid, we've got generation assets of nuclear and hydro, and gas and everything else. If you were to say, well, we're just going to take away all that and go completely, the cost would be astronomical.
Right.
And I think when you look at the long-term energy plan that the province has, what are they looking for? They're looking for clean, reliable, and affordable power and energy systems. And we need reliability, we need the grid for reliability, and it certainly needs to be affordable as well.
But if I understand you, for these developing countries, they could literally leapfrog from nothing past poles and wires right to renewables.
That's correct. With microgrids, absolutely.
Okay. Let's move just beyond this announcement, because battery is not the only kind of energy storage out there, right? What else have you got?
That's correct. Within our members, we've got in Ontario, there's quite an emerging technology cluster of energy storage companies. And I'll just give you a couple of examples. And it varies by the application. One size doesn't fit all in energy storage. Battery is a good application for home energy storage systems and other applications. We've got flywheels. The company Temporal Power has built very large steel flywheels that spin at high speed, and they help manage, they get instructions every 4 seconds to manage the fine-tuning, if you like, that the independent electricity system operators use to balance supply and demand in the province. I'll give you another example. Hydrostore is a company that uses compressed air in underwater balloons to shift power from when it's not needed during the night and periods of low demand to peak demand periods. And one more, and this is a company I happen to work for, Hydrogenics, another Ontario-based company, and we have the highest power density electrolyzer in the world, and the electrolyzer takes renewable energy, splits water, and uses the hydrogen for long-term energy storage as renewable gas or renewable fuel.
You know, Annette Verschuren, who used to run Home Depot and who's now with Enerstore, is going to be very disappointed you didn't mention her. She was on the show recently, and she talked about what she's up to. What'd you say, Hillary? She's bringing the Tesla product up here, right? Okay. How about, are the innovations that you're talking about today, are we primarily talking about for the average person's use at home? Are we talking about industry as a whole? Help us there.
It's across the whole spectrum. Certainly, if you look at the needs for energy storage, there are a couple things that drive it. One is the penetration, the amount of renewable generation in the mix. In Ontario, we have an additional challenge that we also have a large proportion of our generation comes from nuclear generation. And nuclear is not very flexible. So even a small amount of renewable energy and the variation, the sun doesn't always shine, the wind doesn't always blow, is pushing against nuclear. So we haven't got a very flexible system. So we have a need for very large-scale energy storage at times. Instead of exporting the power or instead of maneuvering our nuclear plants is large-scale bulk energy storage. So there are different needs, and different types of technologies are better suited to different energy storage applications.
Do you think storage will do anything, for example, particularly in Northern Ontario, where they had a brutal winter this year and where electricity costs went through the roof? Can storage do anything about the price we pay for electricity?
Yes, it can. I think the specific example of remote communities with diesel gen sets, storage provides a cleaner solution. And if you think about that lens of clean, reliable, and affordable, certainly with potential for microgrids in the north through remote communities, we can have a cleaner solution with wind and solar. And having storage complementing that allows you to have an alternative to diesel. Where we see the real benefit or the leverage in storage, a lot of our infrastructure and the wires infrastructure, I've said the importance of the grid, is old. You look at the city of Toronto, why do we have some of the outages? It's because some of our equipment's over 100 years old. Storage gives options to invest in storage assets instead of some of the existing assets and provide more flexibility as a result.
So when we get the next ice storm and all those wires fall down, instead of spending hundreds of millions fixing that stuff, you're saying put the money into this.
Part of the money should definitely go into that.
Ontario is obviously competing with many different jurisdictions around the world to be leaders in this field. How are we doing?
We're doing well. Ontario is one of the first jurisdictions in North America to be not only studying energy storage assets, but actually deploying them on the grid. The IESO has already procured 45 megawatts of energy storage projects. A number of those have already been built and commissioned, others are underway, and there's more in the pipeline.
At what cost do you think?
Well, the cost of the cost, it compares well. If you look at the IESO, one of the procurements was for regulation. That's that fine tuning I was telling you about to match supply and demand. The IESO has found that load energy storage devices can provide this service on par with the conventional, which is a generator, for example, providing that. But the big thing is the learnings. You know, you can study things, you can have your models on that, but to actually get real-time experience using different technologies for different types of applications for energy storage is going to help put Ontario ahead, not only for management of the grid, but also in terms of developing this technology cluster for use for developing the market in Ontario, but indeed for around the world. There's an economic development benefit for this as well.
No one's got a crystal ball, so I mean, who knows? But how many years down the road would you imagine we will be when these batteries that store energy for our homes will be a typical device that everybody has in their homes, like fire detectors and all the other typical things we have at home?
That's a tough question. You know, it may be, I think we're at the stage of early adopters. When you look at countries like Germany, where there's a lot greater penetration of solar PV, you know, the government has a support for putting batteries in those homes. I think there's a natural complementary thing with the batteries with solar PV. I think generally, are we all going to have the backup? Probably not. But I do think across the board, whether it's at home, whether it's for businesses, whether it's for large-scale energy storage, we are seeing a quick adoption, and groups like Navigant Energy are predicting that this is going to be a multi-billion-dollar business.
So Rob, bottom line, it's a good time to sell Hydro One because that's a dinosaur business going out of style anyway. Is that what you're saying?
I don't think I'm qualified to fully answer that question. We need the grid, Steve. We're blessed in Ontario with a strong power system, a mix of generation. We've got a strong gas system. We have the potential for adding a lot more renewables, which is important as well for a cleaner energy mix. But I don't think we should be getting rid of the grid just yet.
Gotcha. I think I might have been just a little facetious with that last question, but we thank you for coming in. That's Rob Harvey, Chair of Energy Storage Ontario. Good to meet you, Rob, and thanks very much for coming into TVO tonight.
Thank you.
Help TVO create a better world through the power of learning. Visit supporttvo.org and make a tax-deductible donation today.